Welcome to an episode of You Haven't Read What? I'm Krista.
And I'm Christina. Join us to explore unique genres, childhood favorites, and literary classics as we dive into each other's favorite reads.
Where one of us is very familiar with the book, the other is reading for the very first time. Let's go! So welcome to this iteration of the podcast. The next week, if you've been following along, starting with the Harry Potter series. We're on the first book. Tonight we're going to cover chapters 4 and 5.
Yep.
So a real quick recap from last time. We covered the first 3 chapters.
Yep.
And kind of got all the, I'm going to call them the boring chapters. They're my least favorite of this book. We got all the setup out of the way. We met the normal Dursleys. They had a kid dropped on their porch by some guy dressed in a velvet
And his
cloak.
name is not Dumbledore. It is Dumbledore with an R.
That way, exactly. Say it that way from now on.
Dumbledore.
And then we met Harry as he grows up. He's almost 11.
And I get confused by dates and ages, even though I'm still confused. But yes.
We'll get through it. It's okay. And weird things happen with him. He can end up on the roof. His hair grows back. And then he makes glass disappear and fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then letters start appearing from no one. And the Dursleys go crazy trying to get away from the letters because they think they know what it means. So that's the summary from last time.
And we left off on a cliffhanger because who's at the door? 2
really quick go backs. Mm-hmm. One was that your lovely husband pointed out that I was pronouncing this place, this island, wrong. It's Majorca. There we go. Not Majorca. I was pronounce it with a J like it's spelled, not like a double L that I wasn't ready for. So apologies to anybody who's been there, and my bad. And then also you were asking me about, we were talking dates here about exactly how old Harry was.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think he's about 50 months. He is exactly 50 months when he's dropped on the porch, like to the day.
Yep.
Because his birthday is July 31st.
Yep.
And his parents are killed on Halloween. It's October 31st. So that's exactly 15 months. So.
And he's a day, well, depending on the year, his birthday is a day before mine. So
depending on the year.
Well, depending on the year as far as like how old he is. He may or may not be as old as I am, only 1 day older.
So he's definitely older than you.
Okay.
I don't know who decided all these dates. They're probably written somewhere by the author, but
probably.
They claim his birthday is 1980.
Okay.
So
yeah, quite a bit older than I am.
Yeah. And Dudley's birthday is June 23rd for those keeping score. So that's why his birthday was first. And then a month later was Harry's birthday.
Okay.
And that leads us to chapters 4 and 5.
Yes.
So then
the Keeper of the Keys.
Keeper of the Keys and Diagon Alley.
Yes.
Which sounds like diagonally, but Diagon Alley.
Wow, I was definitely pronouncing that wrong in my brain when I was reading that. Yeah.
There's some weird names in here. So for this chapter, we find out who's knocking at the door is Hagrid.
Woohoo! That's actually who I guessed.
Our favorite giant.
Yep.
And we get the real backstory of the Potters. They did not die in a car accident. No car accident could kill Lily and James. And then in the next chapter, we get to say goodbye to the Dursleys for a little bit. We get to go to Diagon Alley and buy a bunch of fun magical stuff, get ready for school. We go through Gringotts, which is awesome and a great roller coaster idea. And then, sadly, at the end, we go back to the Dursleys.
Yeah, I'm not very happy with that one, but we'll have that discussion because I've got 2 pages of notes here on these 2 chapters, and I'm very happy with myself because while I was reading the first couple of lines of chapter 4, I was like trying to figure out what's like who's at the door and everything, and I'm like guessing, and then it kind of has this description: a giant man, long shaggy mane of hair and wild tangled beard. Well, of course, it's got to be Hagrid because they basically describe him that way the first time too. Yes. So, I mean, he's a giant of a guy and
beetle eyes. Oh, that was a weird description.
Yeah, that is a little weird. I think of beetle eyes as being like just super dark black and maybe like pinpointy in a way.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Like see through your soul kind of way.
Ooh, creepy.
But it's Hagrid. He's amazing and lovable. And
okay.
He's a big oaf. He's amazing.
He's almost like a big teddy bear.
Yes.
I mean, Water has a 5-foot giant teddy bear that lives in her hammock. So, I mean.
We only have giant unicorns at our house at the moment.
Giant unicorns.
Oh, and of course, Mickey and Minnie.
Yes.
We have big Mickey and Minnie.
You do.
So starting with chapter 4, Hager comes through the door.
Yep.
And Vernon greets him with a rifle.
Right, which we find in chapter 2, I believe, or is it chapter 3?
When they're running away.
Yep, when they're running away, that he comes back with a long, thin package, and he's got a rifle in it, which to me, it sounds kind of weird being 1990s in London. Because they're not super known for their weapons there. Yeah. So I think that's kind of an interesting...
I think that's something that was really easy as an American reader to gloss over.
For sure. Definitely.
And be like, oh, yeah, you're defending your house. Of course you have some sort of firearm. Like, why not? But then, then you think context. It's like, oh,
yeah,
wait,
there
he had to go into the woods to a sketchy place.
Right.
To get it. Like,
You're kind of like, oh, that's kind of...
Context is weird there.
Yeah. As an adult, it makes like more sense in some ways that, of how he got it, how he got the rifle. But like as a child, I'm sure you're just kind of like
glossed over it.
Whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
All
like, why do you have to go there?
Well, do you think I had somebody describe a lot of, especially this first book, as kind of a fairy tale.
Oh.
And so Hagrid's the knight in shining armor that comes and rescues Harry, which I think is a great mental image here. And so having that idea of like, okay, you have, the dragon or whatever defending the fort. You have something kind of scary, but that can be, by the hero, easily overpowered.
Right.
And so it fits in with the fairy tale dynamic.
Yeah, it does.
You have something big and scary that's
knocking and pounding on a door.
And then all of a sudden, tied into a knot, goodbye.
Yeah.
Or,
I like how it's almost like when you have a cherry stem in your mouth and you're like tying it
I'm
into
not that good.
I mean, I'm not either, but that's what it reminds me of when they describe just taking the rifle and tying it into that knot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, okay, interesting.
Now, one thing that jumped out to me when they start talking, and I hadn't noticed this before, is Uncle Vernon refers to Hagrid multiple times as Sir. And I'm like, that's really respectful of somebody that you don't like.
But he also is doing it in a context of screaming at him. So it almost...
Sometimes,
It almost sounds derogatory in a way.
It could be.
Maybe.
I don't know. It just stood out to me that I was like, yeah, he's
like
used it more than once.
Why being respectful? Or maybe it's just because of the fact that he doesn't actually know Hagrid's name or anything until he introduces himself. But I like the fact that that Hagrid comes in like he owns the place. He's just like, are you going to make me tea?
Sausages and tea.
Like, I'm going to come sit down and just, do this stuff and then...
Pull stuff out of my pockets.
Right? Kind of like he just owns this little house that's...
Not afraid of them.
No.
It's like, whatever, you do your thing. I'm hungry.
Probably because they're muggles.
I'm cold. Like, here's a fireplace. Let's fix that.
Right.
Like, oh. And his pink umbrella. I love the pink umbrella.
The umbrella, the knight in shining armor with the pink umbrella.
Isn't it a great mental image?
It is, definitely. And I have a theory about the pink umbrella when it comes to the 5th chapter and they're talking about his wand. But we'll get there because that's my theory, but I'm not quite sure how it all kind of comes together.
Works together.
Yeah. I gotta figure that out.
Come back to the 2.
But
this is also our first mention of Hogwarts, finally, which was very nice.
What I noticed, though, speaking of Hogwarts, is all the acronyms. Like the when you're reading the letters and everything, and there's so many acronyms. It's like more than a military. and Hogwarts is a school. And so, of course, when they're talking about titles for Dumbledore and everybody else's titles and stuff, like, there's so many acronyms.
He puts, I remember this when I first read it. Yeah. Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Sorcerer, Chief Warlock. And it just keeps going.
Yes.
It's like, oh, you guys care about this stuff. These are all like...
These are titles to them.
Like doctor, like you've earned your PhD. Like you always call somebody with that. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, could you imagine calling him a warlock, though?
I mean, Order of Merlin.
Yeah. Or,
Sir.
Merlin.
Sir Dumbledore. Yeah. Chief Warlock. I don't know.
I think it's interesting that they bring in Merlin because when you think of magic in a world of fairy tales, Merlin is a big known name. And then you bring that into something like this and you go, how are they connected?
It grounds it a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of brings it all, ties it kind of together in a simple, oh, is there a sword inside of a stone somewhere kind of a thing? Like, but yet, like, how does it all come together? How does it work?
There's more on that later.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Like, there's just so many ways to...
It is a fun, like, quote unquote, real world tie into it. It's like, oh, like, wait a minute.
Right.
This is children's stories also. A separate children's story.
Right.
And there's a lot behind that. Now, one thing as a parent that I was like reading this that caught me this time, and I marked this page, it's page 49 in my book. And when Hagrid is talking and Hagrid says, you know all about Hogwarts, of course. And Harry goes, nope. And Hagrid looks shocked. Sorry, Harry said quickly. He apologized for not knowing something. And this was one of the first times as a parent I was like, you do not apologize for that.
Yep.
You do not apologize for somebody failing to teach you something.
Right.
And explain who you are. That I was like, oh, Harry's been so...
beaten down.
Yeah, just verbally beaten down by the Dursleys to not trust anything or that you don't know anything, you're stupid. And to just apologize for that. I was like, no. That I was getting like, mama bear. I was like,
right.
You do not apologize for that, sir.
It's like being in the world like nowadays too, where you're just kind of like, okay, like you're in the way at the grocery store of somebody else that's passing you.
Yeah.
And you are the one that apologizes and you're like, why am I apologizing? Right. Like, why? Like, I'm not in the way.
Yeah. Or somebody's coming back late with something at work and they're like, oh, this happened. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. That's okay. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why am I saying that?
Right. Yep.
So that jumped out to me that I was like, and something, we're both teaching our kids is like, you don't apologize for existing.
Right.
You don't apologize for not knowing something.
Right.
Like
exactly.
that you have no chance of being known.
Right.
That was the first like my blood pressure picked up a little bit. I was like, you do not apologize for that, Harry. You are better than that.
Right. But as a kid, when you read something like that, you're kind of like, well, yeah, like I probably would have apologized for something like that at that age and at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then as he keeps going, when Hagrid's explaining everything to him, he does this, like, he pauses and he waits and, like, it's almost like Hagrid's, like, watching the hamster and Harry's brain turning.
Right.
And he's patient with him.
Yep.
And when Harry gets there, he's like, oh. And I'm like, is this the first time you've been allowed
to actually
make a realization on your own?
Right.
That's got to be a weird feeling.
Right.
At 11 years old, of like, oh, wait a minute.
Well, and I mean, when, again, in the 5th chapter, like he gets to do all of these things that he's never done before. And he's just like, he's almost like a kid in a candy store in a way. Like,
That's what I be.
Right. And it's just one of those like kind of aha moments for Harry to be able to experience something that's not the Dursleys being the Dursleys,
Mean,
great
cruel.
human beings that they are.
Hashtag sarcasm.
Right. Though one question that I found in that chapter is they get so many letters. Like, I mean, the mailman hates them a million times.
It's a heavy bag.
Right, exactly. But whatever happened to the original letter? That is a question that I have that I'm sure it's going to come up at some point. But they never talk about the original letter except for the fact that he read it. I don't know that he says...
Vernon did.
Yeah, Vernon read it. But like...
Did they burn it? Or was that later that he was burning letters?
Later on, he was burning letters and stuff. And maybe I missed it. And I'll go back and I'll take a look at it for next time. But I don't recall them saying what happened to the original letter. He just says that, of course, he read it. And...
He and Petunia did after. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like...
I guess later he's burning letters, and I just assumed he burned that one too.
And maybe he does. Maybe Harry just never finds out what's actually in the original letter.
So I think all the letters were the same.
Okay.
I think every letter that came was the same, like, you've been accepted to Hogwarts. Please show up September 1st.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think every letter said that. And they were just waiting for a reply and kept sending letters till they got a reply.
Yep. But I'm talking about the original one that Dumbledore leaves with him on
that one.
The front step.
Porch.
Yep. When he is 15 months old. Because
we'll
Harry...
get to that later.
Yeah. Okay. I figured that one would come up at some point, but yeah, that was...
I've forgotten about that one. I was thinking the school letters.
No, like...
You're right. I forgot about that one.
I'm just like wondering, well, what happens to the original one? Because that one is supposed to tell him his story.
Yes.
From what I've been told, or from what I have gathered, I should say. So if that's what happens, like, how does he learn his story? Like, I just want to know how...
Hagrid busting down the door is how you learn your story.
Well, I know he learns some of it, obviously, but he gets to learn probably more about his parents at some point. And I mean, being a child of adoption, like, I don't know a lot about, some of my own history. So it's kind of curious, like, how does Harry get to learn some of that? You know what I mean?
Interesting. And I'm so excited right now because I'm like, this is why we wanted to do this. Because like, that's not something I would have thought of. That's not something I latched onto. And I know way down the road when we do eventually get the letter explained. I'll tell you that without any spoilers. Is like I was like, oh, you're right. Right. There was a letter there. Whereas like, obviously you remembered that. Right. I went to the school letters. I wasn't thinking of that one. And
but I also have a different history of growing up than you would, because you have traditional family of like having your brother and your parents and everything, and I am adopted, whereas I don't know half of my family.
You have that question mark.
Yep. Yeah. And I always will, unfortunately. So but yeah, I'm just kind of curious, like, how does he learn that kind of thing?
It's okay. You've made an awesome family.
I know, right? I have definitely made an awesome family, which is exciting to see where Harry goes, because like, I know that he is going to go somewhere, and I really hope he never has to deal with the Dursleys ever again. And I hope that the tail never, ever leaves Dudley. At the end of chapter 4, Dudley and the pink umbrella go into battle.
Yeah, they do. Now, I will say, again, another parent thing, you don't like the Dursleys so much that it's really easy to look past. But Hagrid did put a pigtail on a child.
Oh, yeah.
For something his dad said.
True.
He got punished for his dad's words. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I don't like that. But again, as a kid, it was funny.
Yep.
And as I was like, woof. Whoops. We don't punish kids for their
parents' mistakes, for sure.
Wrongdoings. Yeah. It's like,
but at the same time, Dudley is not innocent by any means when it comes to the bullying and all of that
terrible.
Nonsense.
Yeah.
But,
he's in like a piñata.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. But it is one of those that now I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, let it slide, but
right.
Not a great move, Hagrid.
Right.
Like, maybe let's pull that back a little bit.
Didn't he mean to like turn him into an actual pig and not just the tail? So
a
And I'm wondering if the tail is like gonna stay. I really do, because I did make a note. Does Dudley have to keep the tail? I'm like, does he?
Going to school, hidden in his trousers.
Well, ooh. Could you imagine
No.
when he's going to that like private school or whatever, and he's wearing his what do we call them? The bockers, the
Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers.
Knickerbockers. Yeah. I'm also thinking like how terrible. So I hated middle school locker rooms, are the worst. And now I'm picturing a kid with a tail in a middle school locker room going, oh no.
Right.
Like you can't. All right. Anyway, moving on to chapter 5. Unless anything else stood out to you.
Not really. I mean, obviously the umbrella. I did ask my question to myself. I was like, is the umbrella his wand? Because I was so confused about the umbrella.
Having magical powers.
Yeah. And then I'm like, yep, it is, obviously, because we've got the pig's tail and everything. And then he makes the boat speed off. And he keeps telling Harry, please don't tell anybody.
Just funny.
Right?
Should not have done that.
I mean, and then in chapter 5, again, we learn a little bit more about just like Harry's kind of future and like what it's going to be like in a way when it comes to going to Hogwarts, and how he's got to go get all of his basically school supplies in a way. Like, could you imagine having to go to school, like go to stores and get those types of school supplies?
Special things.
Compared to like the kinds of things we have to get.
Now, in fairness, here at least in our district in Colorado,
Yep.
we don't really have to get school supplies.
No, except until middle school. Then,
yeah. In elementary school,
Yep.
it's all like everyone just pays
All
like
right, you pay
a
for it,
fee, and then the supplies are then split across the teachers. We don't have to worry about it as
Yep.
parents.
Which is so nice.
It's wonderful.
Definitely.
It's the best.
It's almost
Takes
like
so much relief off of both the teachers and the parents.
right, and we don't
And the
have
kids.
to try and figure out, well, which kid wants this and which kid wants that between our own kids, and
the
like,
teachers don't have to deal with the glittery crap
nonsense
that they don't want all over their rooms.
Right.
Oh, I feel for the teachers.
all of the glitter. Yeah. No.
So we get to Diagon Alley.
So I was definitely calling it Diagon.
Yeah. Diagon. I'd say Diagon Alley is like, I don't know, the non-accented American way of saying it. Which you've seen the movie too many times. It's Diagon Alley.
Diagon. I suppose I can see Diagon like when you're saying it and you're, I mean, but as I'm teaching Water how to read, I keep telling her English is so difficult when it comes to pronouncing the way that it's spelled a lot of the time. So
this is why I majored in math and not reading or writing.
right.
There are exceptions in reading and writing, and I hate them. Whereas in math, 2 + 2 = 4.
Right.
No ifs, ands, or buts. No I before E rules. Like,
I mean, yeah, but new math is, I mean, a whole nother subject.
cross that bridge when we get there. We're not there yet.
Sort of. But like, so when we get to Diagon Alley, I'm gonna
Or Diagon Alley,
yes.
whatever.
I guess I don't understand some of the secrecy, and like, obviously the Muggles can't see the alley.
Well, even
Or the cauldron. Even
the leaky cauldron is
the
kind
leaky
of
cauldron.
hidden.
Sort of. And so I'm just curious, like, one thing that stood out to me the most was Lily comes from a Muggle-only family. Mm-hmm. So how did she see the leaky cauldron? Like, how did she go and get all of her school supplies? How did she learn about the money and all of those kinds of things?
She get money,
right? And who paid for it? Because obviously Harry's got an inheritance, which leads me to a whole nother question about his inheritance, and I'll get to that in a second. But like, his money is down in the with the goblins
Vault 713.
right? All the way down. And he has to learn all of these things with how the money is distributed and how it adds up to another, kind of like our pennies and nickels and all of that stuff.
It's like going to another country and having to do some weird exchange.
Right, exactly. And I am curious, like, how Muggle-only families would deal with something like that. And obviously, from what we know from Petunia,
Yeah.
she says something about her parents being so excited to have a witch in the family. So it sounds to me that Lily's parents were all for helping her figure it all out, whereas, you know, the Dursleys definitely wouldn't have helped Harry. So Hagrid had to come and help him and use his umbrella to kind of get them off the island and get them to the leaky cauldron and then go to the goblins and figure out the money and the roller coaster. I would have puked. Straight up puked. Nope. Couldn't have done it.
It is a ride at Universal. It's amazing.
Seriously? Yes. It's an actual kind of like, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
We'll go when we're done reading the books.
Okay.
Because the actual ride is book 7. So you don't get to go yet.
Yeah.
Girls trip.
Right, for sure. Definitely. But like,
it's a great roller coaster.
That roller coaster, I mean, I went to a night Disney thing a couple months ago with my husband, and I went on Gardens of the Galaxy, one of those ones.
I haven't been on that yet.
Disney World.
Can't wait.
It was great. It was so good, but I definitely got off pretty woozy because I love roller coasters. My husband does not, and he had a blast. And then there was me, who I was just like, I'm so dizzy after this. So I was like, I couldn't imagine being Hagrid and being like, okay, I got to keep my mouth shut. Stop asking me questions.
Yeah, we haven't been to Epcot since that one. So we're going in November.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Because Gardens of the Galaxy is my favorite. Because Pratt is my spirit animal. So I'm like, let's go.
I've never seen it.
Those aren't books. We can't talk about those.
Okay.
I mean, technically they're comic books, but I never read comics. Not my thing.
Oh, interesting.
So I did make note. I love the threatening poem at the entrance of the bank.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Kills me. And so I was gonna read it real quick because I flagged it. Enter, stranger, but take heed of what awaits the sin of greed. For those who take but do not earn must pay dearly in their turn. So if you seek beneath the floors a treasure that was never yours, thief, you have been warned, beware of finding more than treasure there. It's like, that is the most terrifying thing ever.
Right.
We should put that on every bank everywhere and
For sure.
have it guarded by goblins and dragons. But like, it's such like a holy smokes.
Right.
Got it. Makes them good.
Yeah, like the whole like greed part, which makes me wonder if that's why the Dursleys never tried for his inheritance. Like I would think that they wouldn't
known.
Wouldn't they? I mean, you have to know that no parent is really going to leave their
they were kind of violently killed with
I
a
suppose
15-month-old.
True.
We didn't have a will put together when our oldest was 15 months old.
True.
And also, without knowing anything, the Dursleys could have assumed everything in the magic world is just free. Like, if you just don't know.
Right.
And Lily and Petunia hadn't talked in
forever.
A hot minute.
Yeah.
So, like, there could have been some assumptions there.
Yeah. Or they could have thought that everything just went up in the
Blew
house or whatever, too, I suppose.
Except for Harry.
Yeah.
And whatever bassinet blanket he was in. That's all you get.
Right.
No help. No diapers.
No, nothing. Here you go.
Good luck.
Good luck. Unless there was something in the letter, which we still don't know about. So, but I mean, when it comes to going down, I still want to know what's in the other, what Dumbledore sends Hagrid to get the package. What's in the package? In the you-know-what.
Involves you-know-which. We're going to keep doing this you-know stuff.
Right. Like all the Bruno, you-know-who. And I love how Harry always starts with Vol and then, oh,
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I just think that he should just say the name. Or if he says the name, is it kind of like, is it like Beetlejuice? Where if you say the name three times and he comes and pops up or whatever?
God, I hope not.
That would be kind of freaky.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, Beetlejuice is terrifying enough.
True that. But it's been 11 years since, well, not quite full 11 years since who has left. So maybe it is kind of like that. But I don't know. Yeah.
I really enjoyed Hagrid's joke when they're going through the tunnel, and Harry asks, like, what's this stalactite and stalagmite? And like, I can never remember. And Hagrid's like, there's an M. Shut up or I'm gonna throw up. I can't say anything else. Right. I just had to laugh because it's something my husband always like reminds us, like how he remembers is stalactites hang from the ceiling because they have to hang on tight to stay on the ceiling, and stalagmites are on the ground because if they slowly grow, they might eventually touch the ceiling. And so he does this really cheesy way of remembering it.
That's
and I like
so
the Hagrid's like, there's an M, I don't care, go away.
Right.
It's like, this is great.
Like, leave me alone.
Nobody cares.
Right. My stomach.
My bad. Just throw my phone on the floor and hit the table.
I mean,
there's worse things.
Right. So back to the school list, because I definitely made a note here because I found the author names the most interesting on the books.
They're fun.
Because they're linked interesting because you've got Magical Draughts and Potions by Arsenius
Sure.
Jigger. Arsenius Jigger. And if you think of draughts and potions, you think of drinks. Like, I think of a cocktail when you think of that. And in Jigger, you need to make a cocktail. And then, like, you get down to 1,000 magical herbs or herbs, depending on which direction you want to say it, and fungi by Fidelia Spore.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it's in the name. Most of them are in the name.
Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander.
Right, exactly. The way that the author just like incorporates different, like the names of things are really weird. But
sometimes they're really obvious.
Sometimes they're so interesting like that. And I am not somebody who like would probably ever read something about herbs and fungi because I'm just not.
No, thanks.
I create toxic mold. I don't like read about it or learn how to kill it. Sometimes I just, whatever.
Throw it away with the leftovers you forgot about.
Basically. But like, I just find it interesting that she was so able to create a world where she could bring so many interesting names like Knickerbockers and
that's a real name.
And it's a real thing in 2 different forms of pants and ice cream, and then come up with something like Fidelia Spore. Like, I think it's really neat how she was able to just kind of like create this world of like intrigue, but at the same time, like, what the heck?
Yeah, clearly she got to the book. She's like, all right, just put some names down and call it good and move on.
I mean, and maybe that's exactly what happened, where she just was like, meh, whatever.
Keep going.
And how do you remember everybody's names throughout an entire book? I mean, you've been reading like this book and you've been notating everybody's names as to, when am I going to meet this person again? I want to know, like, how does she remember that met all of these people? Like, you have to have some really like fine research at that point in your own book in order to keep that all straight.
Very impressive writing. Like, there's, I mean, there's no denying the impressiveness of the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something I made a big note at the beginning of this one. my first note is so much foreshadowing. I am dying.
Yeah.
And I made notes. I found references to books till much later in this book. There's a bunch of references to later in this book, which kind of makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
you knew the story.
Right.
But there's references to 2, 5, and 7 without me trying.
Oh, wow.
And then also, just because I called it out, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them is its own separate movie set based on Newt Scamander and Dumbledore. And there's no book, so we might watch those later. So no spoilers here, but like this one line in the first book, the name of this book by this author turns into a whole nother movie series.
Interesting.
I was like, that is impressive.
That's cool.
So I mean, you see, this is my note. There's a reference to 7. There's a reference to 1. There's a reference to 7. There's like, I made all the notes so I could write them down.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm gonna come back to a lot of these later. But like, do you remember when?
Right. Or like the random person that bowed to him and then he sees him in the leaky cauldron and is like, oh yeah, I remember who you are. You bowed to me.
Diggle? Is that Diggle?
I think so.
Yeah, it's Diggle. Yeah, I made a note of all the names again. That's like we met Fudge. We get reference to Fudge, the Ministry of Magic. It's like, yay, politics. I don't want to talk about politics. But like, yeah, you get this entry to the Ministry of Magic. You meet Tom, who's the bartender. And then, yeah, Crockford, Diggle, Quirrell, another professor, Griphook's the goblin, Madame Malkin, and then Ollivander eventually.
Right.
And so I was like, again, writing all of these down. So I was like, okay. Because some of these names you never hear again. Other ones come back. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. You met him in book 1 and you know, the leaky cauldron randomly. Like, yeah.
Did you know, I want to ask you a quick question. Did you know that London has tunnels underneath?
I did.
So there's a lot of theories and a lot of like truths and legends when it comes to all of their tunnels. But really? I think it's interesting that she brings them when we talk about going down to get the money and stuff. Not that I'm going to pronounce that name correctly because I definitely won't. When it goes to the bank down...
Gringotts?
Is that what it is? Gringotts?
The bank is Gringotts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely not how I would have spelled it. Again, so confused. But yeah, like I find it interesting that she brought that like tunnel... The
whole tunnel system into be a thing.
Yep. Because, I mean... dragons and stuff and goblins, but yeah, like the fact that there is truth and legend when it comes to some of those tunnels down there is kind of interesting.
That is fun. In Seattle, I'm from Seattle. I'm wearing my Seahawks sweatshirt. We won today. Woo! But yeah, Seattle is a whole underground. I toured it when I was in elementary school, like everyone goes, and like it's like, oh, these cities that existed before the city was there.
Right.
This is fascinating.
Yep.
Yeah, London has the same, which is really cool.
Yeah. I just find it kind of fun to think about going somewhere like that and being like, oh, they're going to reference that in a book and also
it's magic.
Make it, sound way more magical.
Way more cool than it really is.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Probably way more cooler in the book than it actually is in person.
Yeah.
But what the heck is Quidditch, by the way? I don't
the sport.
get it.
You'll love it. It's meant to look that.
It's like soccer. However, it's done on brooms. It's done up in the air. It's done without your feet. Like, how is it like soccer? Come on. It's nothing like soccer.
We'll find out in a few chapters. But I'll make a note. I'm meant to look this up from last time. I meant to look up in my Philosopher's Stone copy of the book if it says soccer or football. Because it surprised me when it said version. Soccer. Mm-hmm. I was like, why would you compare this to soccer? Wouldn't you compare it to football?
Right. Well,
not
the English version of football.
So that's why I want to look it up and see if in the Philosopher's Stone, the quote unquote British version of the book, if it says football or soccer. I'm really curious.
Right. Because to me, the English version of football is more like rugby. Yeah. To me, that's real football is rugby, and football for soccer it just kind of like the names are different.
At least you actually play the sport with your feet.
Right.
It's the only name that actually makes sense.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm wearing my Seahawks sweater, but I'm a soccer fan. I'm a soccer fan first. Football makes a lot more sense to be a soccer. But anyway.
Yeah, for sure. It does. Yep.
So I felt so bad when he's in the robes with Madam
And the boy.
Yeah, and he meets.
We don't know who he meets because he doesn't
I'm not going to
say his name.
because I know who it is. I'm not going to say his name. But the first student he meets, he's the only people he's met from his world at this moment are Hagrid and a goblin, I guess, technically.
Right.
And like, this is the first kid he meets that he's going to school with. And he reminds him of Dudley.
Right.
That would be the worst feeling ever.
Yeah, it would.
Like, I can picture my stomach dropping, to my feet.
Being like, great, and now I'm going to have a bully at school too, at my new place.
It's not any better.
Yep.
Yeah. That again, as a kid, when I read that, I was like, yeah, okay, you met a little, twerp. Who cares?
Right.
But yeah, again, as a parent or as an adult, I'm like, oh, that'd be the worst feeling.
Yeah,
like,
it would be.
This doesn't get any better. Like, am I getting away from something? Like, oh.
And unfortunately, like in his mind, he probably isn't getting away from it because he's talking to this kid and he doesn't say who he is or anything because he just doesn't feel like this kid would like be nice or whatever.
When he knows he's some sort of celebrity, but he still doesn't totally comprehend it. So you gotta be a little nervous. They haven't gone to the wands yet, right? Yeah, that's before Ollivander's.
So yep.
But like Ollivander, he walks in, he's like, "Oh, I know who you are. This is the wand your parents have. This is the wand that killed your parents." I was like, "Oh God, too much detail." Like,
right, and
Ollivander,
then
cool
the fact that the two wands are going to be twins and stuff like that is interesting.
Phoenix feather.
Yeah.
Like,
but before we get to a theory that I have about the wands, the with the robes and the boy, it like if he see it, the boy obviously knows who Hagrid is. He hasn't met Hagrid. He talks about him. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't he put some two and two together in any way? Like being like, well, though I guess people wouldn't really know who Harry is outside of just his name at this point either.
Yeah, I guess they would assume somebody's bringing him. I mean, I guess the wizarding world never really knew where he went.
True.
He just kind of disappeared.
But don't they know about his scar?
Yeah, it's hence the shaggy hair. That's why his hair always grows back.
Okay. But the boy doesn't notice the scar.
He doesn't see it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, whoops.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. I mean, I guess I get some of that and just the like not really wanting to be friends with that boy and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting to see the dynamics when it comes to every school has these kind of
jerk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But you got to find that one person that's going to be there for you and be your friend and
make your own family.
Yep, exactly. Make your own family because you don't have to always be with your own family and stuff. Yeah.
So you mentioned some theories about certain wands. I'm curious.
So when we get to Ollivander, we talk about the two phoenix feathers, and we learn quite a bit about Harry's parents' wands, and like he goes through trying to find his own wand over and over and over and whatnot. And I am curious if the phoenix feathers are kind of like a good and evil. Like is one phoenix feather like the evil one and one of them's the good one. But
interesting.
At the same time, I wonder if it's this person went bad. Could Harry also go bad? Or could he have to fight to be good? Or, that kind of thing. So I'm curious how the wands being from the same phoenix kind of
tie together
and
interesting
and coincide.
Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah, so it's almost like a hide and jackal type of thing.
Yeah, yin and yang kind of.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see which way it'll end up going when it comes to the feathers specifically. Though I did find it interesting that Harry's wand is slightly smaller. I was expecting it to be more on the same length in a way as whose wand, just because if they're going to go against each other, I would think that you would need it.
There's an advantage to size.
Yeah, maybe. I mean,
tongue in cheek.
Yeah, not going to go there, but it's one of those does it work that way, or is it more just about the power and stuff too? So
that is something else we will do a little bit later when we do the houses just online. You can also answer questions and get your wand.
Okay.
So we'll pick your wand.
Right.
And I will reveal what mine is.
Right.
So that'll be later. And then what about Hagrid's wand? Or Hagrid's umbrella and wand?
Oh, yes. So I wonder if he put his because he mentions that he has the pieces still. If he put the pieces, kind of taped them together in a way and stuck them inside the umbrella somewhere as being so that he could have his wand again.
Still have some ability.
Right, which is how he probably got the pigtail instead of the pig, because it's not a full-on wand. Plus, he also admits that he wasn't a great magician
to begin with. Yeah.
Wizard.
So that was my one, fun question for you is Hagrid does mention he got expelled, and then Harry asks why, and he gets really quiet and changes the topic, and I think they leave or something, leave the hut or whatever. So what did Hagrid do to get expelled from Hogwarts?
I'm going with he probably did some sort of spell that burned something down or turned everybody into mice or something. I don't know. It's going to be something super crazy though. That's going to be could it have been his fault, or could it have been a complete accident and he got expelled because they just were tired of
dealing with
whatever was happening with him?
I like that. He turned all the students to mice.
I mean,
it's gotta be something crazy.
Yeah, frogs jumping all over the place or something.
That's a fun foreshadowing you'll find out about.
Yeah,
significantly later.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. The boy that he talks to in the robe shop talks about how he burns his bed all the time or something. He gets drunk and then he sets fire to his bed.
He's not drunk. He's 11. Oh, Hagrid.
Yeah.
I was like, boy's 11.
No, not the boy. That the stories that he has heard of the gamekeeper, the key keeper, is he gets drunk and he sets fire to his bed.
Too much. Yeah.
By accident. Yeah. So I'm thinking it'll be something along the fire lines when it comes to him. But I
like that.
At this point, who knows? He could have made Dumbledore lose all of his hair or something. Set fire to Dumbledore's hair and his beard. His
big, gorgeous silver beard.
It doesn't really kind of make it sound like it's gorgeous in the first chapter, but maybe it is gorgeous. I don't know. But could you imagine, though, getting the book that was in the spell book with
the one with all of the jinxes?
So could you imagine a brand new wizard getting the curses and counter curses, hair loss and jelly legs, the one he wants to use against Dudley? I definitely would love to get a book like that and be just so you know, and just leave it in his room.
Just leave it sitting down on the kitchen table.
Exactly.
Catch up a bit of light reading for you. Oh, God.
Right?
Run away.
He's got a pig's tail at this point, so maybe he could have jellyfish legs or something. I know.
It'll be a real awkward first day of school.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. It would be very, very weird. But now he gets a different uniform. He doesn't have to wear Dudley's clothes anymore. He can be done.
He looks presentable.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he has to get back on the train and go back to them. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I know.
I was really angry about that part, like at the end of that chapter, the 5th chapter.
Remember, it's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Got to go through a few iterations. Yeah. Poor Cinderella. Has to go back to the evil stepmother before the prince finds her.
Yeah, but still, like...
She still loses the shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's annoying.
I'm ready for Harry to be like, okay, it's September. Let's go.
Deuces.
Right? Because I'm curious what's going to happen when he gets back. Because he literally defied them and left with Hagrid. And not only that, but he left them on an island without a
no
boat.
Yeah.
So how did they get off the island? Do we find this out?
I will tell you, you do not find out. And I've always wanted to know. Maybe like Hagrid sent the boat back without telling them or something.
I mean, maybe.
That has killed me every time.
I definitely would love to know how they get off of
Gilligan's
that island.
Island. You just stranded these people.
Right?
Like, oh boy.
Maybe they took an owl and the owl carried them. I don't know. But the fact that
I've always wondered that.
And does he go back with his owl? Because in the letter it says to send his owl to Hogwarts with his acceptance.
With his acceptance.
So does Hagrid take the owl back to Hogwarts with him, or does he take it back to
No. Yeah. Harry takes it back with him. So kind of Hagrid sending his owl back
right
that night to Dumbledore saying deliver the letter is kind of the acceptance there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the owl. I can't say his name yet.
Yeah.
Definitely goes back.
I'm just I want to know what's going to happen when Harry gets back and he's got literally a month of Dursleys and dealing with them after completely defying them, leaving them on an island, having Dudley have a pig's tail, all of these things. And then he has to go back for a month. So
womp womp.
What's going to happen to Harry in the 6th chapter?
Well, let's find out next time. Next time we're going to cover chapters 6 and 7. 6 is the journey from platforms 9 3/4.
Okay.
And 7 is the sorting hat.
The sorting hat. Wait, is that thing that I sent you from my vacation?
Yes, it is.
Because I saw this hat and it was put $1 in or something and I'll tell you something or other about your house. And I was I sent this picture to you and you're like,
is this Harry Potter?
Yeah.
I was like, yes, it is.
Don't play with
away.
that. Don't play with that. You're not allowed. Don't do it. But yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll do a special, again, for those of us who follow us on YouTube and Instagram and all these fun places that we will sort Christina.
Yep.
And I will talk about my house sorting, why I was angry with it as a child and now I've accepted it and I love it now. But I did not like it at first. I will explain that why. We'll do a special on that one.
Okay. I'm curious why being a Hufflepuff is bad and why being a Slytherin is horrible, except for the fact that who was a Slytherin. And all of the people that went with him were bad and they were also Slytherins.
We'll find out a lot more on that.
Yeah. I'm curious.
I like Hufflepuffs, but yeah. I think thing 2 is Hufflepuff. So
I don't know, but his personality is.
There's a joke you'll find out later, and this is just a joke, doesn't spoil anything. But the Hufflepuff dorms are next to the kitchen. So that's kind of the joke, is all the Hufflepuffs do is steal snacks from the kitchen and sit and eat. Just totally my second kid.
That is so funny. Okay, yep. I was thinking personality. He's just more okay, so when I think of a Hufflepuff, because I'm Pokemon, so I think of this big pink, squishy thing that just runs around all the time and everything. And I think of thing too, being like this thing that just runs around all the time.
Oh my God, he runs so much.
Yeah. So I just was like, okay.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like. But then Slytherin sounds like a snake. So I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'll give you something to think about as you read the Sorting Hat chapter.
Okay.
Is I say, okay, again, not saying what I am. I think my second kid is a Hufflepuff. My first kid is me, so I'm not gonna say. I think she's split between two houses at the moment.
Okay.
I think I know which one, but right now, and I will say yours in a good way because you haven't. This is something that'll come up later. I think yours is a Slytherin.
Interesting.
And it's not all bad. They're not all evil. I mean, you got a sneaky little Slytherin on your hands.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the different houses are and everything, and kind of go from there.
As you read the next chapter, think about that.
Right, for sure.
And then and it'll be fun. Like I said, we'll do a special. So if you don't follow us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all those, we'll do a little special.
Okay.
And pick houses.
Okay, cool.
I'm excited. The houses are fun.
And I get colors, right? Because I've never been a part of a house before.
Awesome.
Like, I didn't go to college, so
Get to the movies.
I didn't do
In one of the houses, they changed the colors in the movie.
Oh.
So all of the stuff you can buy everywhere is in the movie colors and not the book colors.
Oh, and you don't like the movie
Why
colors?
did you change it?
Yeah.
That's so stupid. Why change it?
I mean, we have talked multiple times that movies and books are different.
I know. But it's a color. 3 of them are correct and one of them is just different. Why did you change that?
That's true.
I don't know.
Is there anything online that like comes across
probably. I'm
as to
probably too angry to look it up. I'm sure it didn't film well or something, or look too close to another color. I don't know. It's annoying.
Maybe. Interesting. Anyway. Okay, well, thank you for joining us.
Have a great evening.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for this episode. If you had fun, please follow, download, and review this podcast on your preferred listening platform.
If you're ready for the next chapter, join the spoiler-free conversation on our Facebook group. Search You Haven't Read What? The podcast.
Or on Instagram and YouTube for exclusive videos and behind-the-scenes content. Have a great week.
And we'll catch you on the next page.